Now, it's been a while since I've done one of these Pokedex videos. You can go back and take a look at some of the other gens I've covered. In this episode, we are looking at Scarlet and Violet Pokemon in particular. So huge spoiler warning. If you've not finished the game, if you've not seen the Pokedex yet, explored it for yourself. We are going to be showing Pokemon in this episode, so I don't want to spoil anything for anyone. A huge spoiler warning now. Come back once you've finished it. If you're not that fussed, you just want to see some cool Pokemon, some cool Pokedex entries, let's get into this with my honorable mention, Fido. Not one you would expect on this list. Not really creepy, not too weird. It's just slightly disgusting. This Pokemon is smooth and moist to touch. Yeast in Fido's breath induces fermentation in the Pokemon's vicinity. Some people are grossed out by the word moist. I'm not particularly fond on the word, so I thought I'd put that in an honorable mention. One of my favorite Pokemon from this gen, but a very strange but fitting Pokedex entry. As always, if you think I missed any Pokemon, drop them in the comments below. Let me know some other weird Pokedex entries you've seen in this generation. But let's get into this with number 10, Rabska. I will also apologize for some pronunciation in this video. Obviously, I haven't seen them mentioned by Pokemon yet. It's why I'd really like some voice acting in the game so we can hear the Pokemon as we play the game. But alas, Rabska or Rabska, I don't know how else you would pronounce this. Its Pokedex entry, the body that supports the ball barely moves. Therefore, it is thought that the true body of this Pokemon is actually inside the ball. Now this one's slightly creepy, it's slightly weird. It feels something like Mimikyu or more accurate Wobbuffet. How the Pokemon is maybe actually the tail, or it's something you don't see. In this case, we don't actually know what the Pokemon looks like, because if that is the fact, we haven't seen inside of that ball. So I do think it's very interesting that there potentially could be a Pokemon we don't know about inside of this Pokemon. So I thought that was a really cool Pokedex entry. Not particularly creepy or weird, but it will ramp up as we go. With number 9, Skeledirge. Now this is a final evolve of Fuecoco. The fiery bird changes shape when Skeledirge sings. Rumour has it that the bird was born when the fireball on Skeledirge's head gained a soul. Now again, this one very similar to what I just mentioned with stuff like Wobbuffet and Mimikyu and Pokemon inside of Pokemon or Pokemon with Pokemon that weren't necessarily there before. I think it's strange that the fire has gained a soul, or the bird. It's just a very strange dynamic of Pokemon. Again, something you wouldn't expect, the fire coming to life, the bird gaining a soul, or Skeledirge's head gaining a soul. This one for me, it was very confusing. It was very strange to mention souls within Pokemon. And it was immediately one that jumped out to me. In at number 8, I've gone for Spidops. Now, for anyone with arachnophobia, spiders are always kind of creepy. This doesn't change that. It clings to branches and ceilings, using its threads, and moves without a sound. It takes out its prey before the prey even notices. Now, obviously, this is a lot bigger than a normal spider, so you can imagine this just perched in the corner of your room waiting. And like it says, the prey is taken out before it even notices. This one's really creepy because I mentioned before, spiders, I don't know, some people like them. And if you do, probably not creepy for you. But the thought of a giant spider waiting silently for you, one big enough to maybe take out a human, is very creepy. In at number 7, I've gone for Shroodle. Now, obviously in the trailer, we saw the graffiti Pokemon, Graffiti, I don't know how it's pronounced. It's a very cool Pokemon. But what you need to worry about is its pre-evolve. Though usually a mellow Pokemon, it will sink its sharp, poison-soaked front teeth into any that anger it, causing paralysis in the object of its ire. Now, paralysis is always... I find that very creepy. Out of all of the effects in the game, out of all of the things prey could do to its victim, I think that is of the worst. Obviously, you're not able to do anything. It's just going to bite you. I don't know what else this Pokemon is going to do. It could probably eat you. If not, it says poison-soaked teeth, so you're going to slowly die whilst being paralyzed. I can't think of a worse way to go. Keep this Pokemon away from me. In at number 6, I've gone for Bramblin. I found this one quite interesting, and I have got the evolve on this list somewhere, but we will get to that. Bramblin says, a soul unable to move on to the afterlife was blown around by the wind until it got tangled up in dry grass and became a Pokemon. Again, another Pokemon mentioned in Souls, this time a human soul floating around the world, caught up in some grass and turns into a Pokemon. That's a really creepy way for a Pokemon to be designed. I do think it's a really cool way as well. I think the design is cool, it fits the Pokemon well. But again, it's something we don't normally hear about in Pokemon. It's something you wouldn't expect to be a real Pokedex entry, but alas, it is. In at number 5, I've gone for everyone's best friend, Wugtrio. Now, when this Pokemon was released, or more specifically Wiglet, people went crazy. It was a very strange design. It was a very strange idea. It's not related or a version of Diglett apparently, despite having the same name. You would expect it just to be a Paldean version of Diglett, which would have made slightly more sense, but no. Alas, Wugtrio, it has a vicious temperament. Contrary to what its appearance may suggest, it wraps its long bodies around prey, then drags the prey into its den. Now that, considering how happy the Pokemon looks, how, I don't know, sort of fun and loving it looks, that is a dark entry. Its den is going to be underground or underwater, so it's basically going to grab something, it could be a Pokemon, it could be a human, and pull it under the earth. You would assume it's feeding on them, so that's kind of a horrific ending for anyone, especially to Wugtrio. I expected more from the guy. In at number 4, I've gone for Wo-Chien. It's one of the legendary ruin Pokemon. I think it's a legendary anyway, I'm not entirely sure. And I couldn't fully understand this Pokedex entry, but if it's what I think it is, then it is very dark. The grudge of a person punished for writing the king's evil deeds upon wooden tablets has clad itself in dead leaves to become a Pokemon. Now, is that saying the person who wrote upon the tablets, which are part of the Pokemon as well, was punished, and its punishment is dying and becoming a Pokemon, cladding itself in leaves? That sounds creepy. I mean, if that's the design for a Pokemon, it sounds more like Dark Souls than Pokemon, honestly. That's a very creepy and eerie image, not only for games in general, but especially for Pokemon. I don't know. It is very strange. I kind of like it though. It's very much like Goosebumps. So it's that bridge between Pokemon and young age into adolescent teenagers and moving with horror. I do think there should be some horror in these games, and I would love to see a full horror Pokemon game at some point, which is why I like all of this stuff. I'm a massive fan of horror and Pokemon. I like this stuff. I wish there was a bigger connection between them, and I would love to see that at some point. When we saw the Graveyard, the new dog Pokemon, we saw that little clip from Pokemon. That was really exciting. I was super excited to see more of that. I'd love to see a game of that, or like a mini game or something. Let me know in the comments if you think that would work. But let's move on to number 3, Tinkertuff. Now this is it looks like a really happy fairy Pokemon with a giant hammer just going about life. This Pokemon will attack groups of Pawniard and Bisharp, gathering metal from them in order to create a large and sturdy hammer. So those things they're carrying around are made from Pawniard and Bisharp. They are cutting them down, rebuilding them as weapons to kill off even more. It's a really dark and dreary idea that Pawniards and Bisharps are being hunted down by Tinkertuffs, so groups of these things torn apart and rebuilt into sturdy hammers, which, going from the evolve of this Pokemon, they then target down Corviknights in the sky to try and take them out as well. They are recycling steel Pokemon. I know recycling's good, but I don't know, man. This one doesn't sit right with me. In at number 2, I've gone for Knucklestack. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. This Pokemon dry cures its prey by spraying salt over them. The curing process steals away the water in the prey's body. Now, it doesn't mention it takes them out or crushes them or kills them or anything before it does this. So you are alive, it covers you in salt, and slowly your body loses water as you succumb to this Pokemon. That's Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's not Pokemon. That is so creepy of an idea. I absolutely love it. Like I say, I love seeing the horror in Pokemon, and this one, it could have been number 1, honestly. It's just the fact it mentions prey, it mentions how it covers them in salt and just lets it draw the water from them. It's a really cruel way to take out a Pokemon or a person. So it had to be on this list. It could have been number 1, but at number 1, I've gone for Bramblegast. It will open the branches of its head to envelop its prey. Once it absorbs all the life energy it needs, it expels the prey and discards it. Now this one, obviously the version above is going to kill you. All the water is drained from your body. You're going to die. This one, it draws the life from you, but it doesn't necessarily kill you. Once it's finished, it will discard your body. So either it draws all the life from you and you die in the most vicious way possible, trapped inside this Pokemon as it takes life, or it drains half your life, 75% of it, and then expels the rest. You are a shell, or your Pokemon is a shell of what it is before it was caught by this Pokemon. I think this is truly the creepiest and scariest, weirdest, whatever you want to call it, Pokedex entry in Scarlet and Violet. But that's my list. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Maybe you've got some of your own suggestions. Like I say, drop them in the comments below. Love to give them a read. I do think there's a few others that could have been mentioned. That's all I've got for this video though. If you want to see any more Pokemon, tabletop, card, video game, anything, make sure you subscribe, leave a like on this video, and I will catch you in the next one.